Gotchasports. We are back for another episode, Carrie. We are here after the college football playoff rankings have come out. They are finalized. The 12 teams have been set. Carrie, before we jump right into it, let me just welcome the new listeners to this episode. Welcome. We are Gotchasports returners. Appreciate you coming back. Today's episode strictly is going to be college football rankings, just talking college football about what occurred on Sunday. We'll dive into why or why not we thought Notre Dame should make it, or some other teams should have made it, or did make it that shouldn't have, and vice versa. So stay tuned for that. We're going to get into it. Obviously, we know that this is a Notre Dame podcast, so we'll see where this ends up. But Carrie, college football rankings are out. 12-team playoff is set. What are your initial reactions?
There's a lot I disagree with, even outside of just being a huge Notre Dame fan, as both of us are. I think there's actually so much more than Notre Dame just not making the playoffs towards our entire hatred of the committee and the entire process that went down in terms of picking the teams that made the college football playoff. So I do want to set that straight. This is not a pure Miami hatred thing or me purely thinking that we are better than Miami, which I think we are. But there's just so much more in terms of Alabama and BYU. I just don't understand what type of logic went into choosing a 3-loss Alabama team that has looked horrible the past 5 games to end the season. They get absolutely dog walked by Georgia. They don't even slide a spot. They stay exactly where they're at. BYU goes into playing Texas Tech. Already lost to Texas Tech once this year. Only lost of the season. Then they lose again, get dog walked again by Texas Tech. And BYU just gets shoved out like it was the most obvious answer of all time. So that's my main thing is like, where's the actual logic when it came to the BYU Bama conversation? Because I personally don't understand it. I also just haven't heard a reasoning as to why Bama ultimately didn't lose a spot when, if you look at every other single conference game that played, every single team dropped at least 1 to 2 spots this year.
In every year of the college football playoff, the team that lost a conference championship game had at least dropped 1 spot. So that's where all of this comes into play, Carrie. And we've been talking about it for a couple of weeks. And the committee comes out and says the conference championships won't hurt you. But the fact that you're in this game, you are not going to be punished by playing in this game. And I said it on the last episode before the rankings even came out. Why are we saying that? Conference championships have always either helped you or they hurt you. It's never, oh, you made it, congratulations, it's only this or better. It has never been that. And so when they were talking about no matter what happens, Bama's probably in, well, why? It's never been that way before. And so when the rankings come out, and again, we're Notre Dame fans, we lost to Miami. The committee and everybody telling Notre Dame fans, hey, you guys need to win out. You need to dominate. You need to show. And the rankings showed that. Being ranked 9th, being ranked 10th. Never once did we cross that 10th threshold until this final rankings came out. So at what point are we sitting in the season, or even if it went completely different, at what point can we look at something and be like, what do we need to do to get into this playoff? If it's other teams losing and that's out of our control, then that's it. Then we can't do anything about it. But if they're going to tell us, you guys need to dominate, you guys need to win out, we dominate, we win out, we're in the field the entire time, and then it comes to the last day and they do a switch up and say conference championships do matter, but they also don't matter. None of it, there was zero consistency without the entire process, which as a Notre Dame fan, as somebody who's on the outside looking in, is the issue I have with it. Miami, and I said it on the last episode, Miami should have been ahead of us the entire time. That's the committee's fault. That's not Notre Dame's fault. They kept winning. And that's not Miami's fault. They kept winning. The problem that then comes with it is you had this false idea of who or where teams stood throughout the year, which just wasn't true at all. And then you come out and say that conference championships aren't going to hurt teams. You hurt BYU by kicking them out of the playoff because they lost, and rightfully so. And the whole Alabama thing, if you didn't punish them for not playing well in the conference championship game, that's fine. and they have all of these records and all of these statistics about how Notre Dame doesn't, or Alabama deserves to be in over Notre Dame. That's fine. If you are basing it off of head to head, we didn't have that. Common opponents, we didn't have that. If it's just strength of schedule, that's the final piece, then Alabama does deserve to be in ahead of Notre Dame. But that's not all that's not hadn't gone into picking these 12 teams. There was also an eye test component of it. Eye test shows that Alabama had to make a gutsy call to beat Auburn, a one-win SEC team in the last week of the year, and then they go and play a conference championship game and don't even have a positive rushing yard. So at what point do you value the strength of schedule? They had one good game against Georgia that they almost blew, by the way. One good game against Georgia that solidified their entire resume. In my opinion, that's not how it works, because if you look at where we're in the year, we're at the very end, and you want the teams that are playing the best. Alabama's not that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more. And just back to talking about these conference games, at the end of the day, I would argue the conference game that affected Notre Dame the most was probably Virginia and Duke, because Virginia
100%.
just couldn't find a way to win that game. And I don't know why I didn't even think about that game longer until like the game actually happened. But I mean, that is the most embarrassing conference game of all time. First of all, like I I understand like whatever came down to Miami not being in it, they should somehow be in that game. Like I don't know what
Yeah,
happened with all
100%.
that. Um, but it's just like then how does Duke and Virginia, the final of that, then hurt us so much, because deep down the committee wants a ACC team in, and ultimately I think that went into the final decision making even more. Yes, Miami had the head to head. Like you said, if they were always going to be past us, they should have done it weeks ago. They should have not acted like Notre Dame was 100% the better team like they did, because they said it. They literally said that the committee had felt at this point of the season Notre Dame just looks better, which I also agree with. But you can't just ultimately forget about that going into the last week and then just decide, yeah, we're going to bump Miami ahead now. We just caused all this drama. Duke and Virginia kind of added to it too, because a Virginia win ultimately would have got them into the tournament also. And then the worst of it all, you sit there, you watch this, and then you see James Madison get in and you see Tulane get in. Congrats to both teams. They're smaller schools, based off a record. Sure, they deserve to be there. They have great looking records. But, we have Tulane going against Ole Miss. What do you know? They already played this year and lost by about 40 points to Ole Miss. So it's just like, as a college football fan, no one wants to watch that opening round. If Tulane is able to do something insane and even remarkably keep the game close, then you know what? I'll never talk about that ever again until there's a time and point where I have to. But same thing, like James Madison, great season. You're going at Oregon. Good luck. Like there's just no possible way that teams like Notre Dame, Texas, and Vandy shouldn't be competing for that 11 or 12 spot, when I think all three of those teams could go at Oregon and beat Oregon.
Right. I hear you with that. My argument is that I don't think the fact that there are two G5 schools, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing for college football. Because again, and I said it on the last podcast, the fact that there is that chance that JMU does go on the road and beat Oregon, that's what makes college sports college sports. When Fairleigh Dickinson beats Purdue as a 16 seed, and Purdue's a 1 seed, and it's only the second or third time in the history of the sport to ever happen. That's history. That's what makes college so awesome, especially in the athletic world. So I have no problem with those two teams being in. However, if we are going to have two G5 schools, and the only reason that there's two is because of how bad the ACC was and not getting somebody who played in the conference championship into the playoff. Somebody who didn't even play in their own conference championship got into the playoff. There's obviously some type of flaw within the system. I don't think penalizing those G5 schools that had incredible years, that have good enough resumes to be in the conversation to try to compete and upset one of these big dogs, I don't have any issue with that. The issue that I have with it is because of the way that the format is and how big these conferences are, it's so clouded and it's so crowded that yes, in this specific scenario, Notre Dame, whether it's Texas or Vandy or BYU or any one of these schools that you want to make an argument for, yes, they probably should be in this field of 12 over JMU and Tulane. But I don't think you can completely gut those G5 schools from getting a chance to get into the playoff because it will never be actually the 12 best teams in college football because you do have to have that component because again that's what makes college sports. So I don't have a problem with that. There's a bigger problem at hand when we're looking at this thing and a team that didn't even play in their conference championship is playing in the playoff. There's something wrong with the system and that needs to change.
Yeah, I think, like you already said, that is a huge issue. And like I said earlier, the whole Bama thing is beside me that they managed to be the only team to not get bumped down after their conference championship
Yeah.
game. It just, nothing is lining up with what they were claiming 4 weeks ago when the playoff rankings first came out. It's just like, if that is going to be your set standard or your rule, then run with it and keep doing it. And if you literally follow what you're saying, this is not that big of an issue. But the fact that
Yeah.
BYU gets kicked out, which rightfully so, I agree. I don't think BYU is that good of a football team. But that's not the point. The point of this is that you managed to leave one team that got their ass handed to them in their same spot, which is beside me.
Yeah.
And once again, it's just, we said it, or I said it earlier, Tulane is at Ole Miss, or yeah, for the second time this year. And now we have a repeat matchup of Alabama, Oklahoma. Not at all
Mm-hmm.
saying that's not going to be a great game. But it's just like, at this point of the season, you're telling me like we can't get some brand new matchups going, different teams playing each other. Like, two of the first games of the college football playoffs are just rematches.
Yeah, it definitely takes away from the excitement of college football. And obviously, with the college football landscape and how it's evolved over the past couple of years and how it's constantly changing, we see news that Notre Dame actually decides to opt out of the bowl game with potentially BYU in the Pop Tarts Bowl. How did you feel about that situation? Do you think Notre Dame should play, or do you think that they're sending the right message by not playing?
No. There's no point of playing. The only way we play that game is if we have every single player that started this year also play. Because the last thing we need is to go play BYU without our best two running backs, without some of our best backfield defenders, and wind up playing a close game or even losing to BYU. Because then it's just going to turn into, oh, the committee was right to leave Notre Dame out. It's like, no, we were playing without 10 of our starters. We were playing without the main key to our offense. So it's just like, no, I'm not going to go play BYU in this Pop Tart Bowl when we're not at full strength and we're not the team that we displayed the entire season. There's just no point of it to me. And it's just like, it sets us up just to even worsen the current reputation that everyone's trying to put on us right now. Like, I completely agree with the entire thing. We were able to see the AD for Notre Dame speak to. I mean, it was a soft conversation, in my opinion. I think everything he said was still correct. It's just like, if we're going to maintain this mentality of being this team that we're opting out of the bowl, that we're going to speak very heavily on what we think of the ACC, I just think we need to keep that demeanor at this point. Because at the end of the day, yeah, everyone feels like we got screwed by the entirety of the ACC.
Yeah. I'm kind of torn, honestly, with the whole bowl game situation. On one hand, as a fan, I just want to watch Notre Dame play football against another good opponent. And so I want to be able to watch that. And again, I do agree. It's going to be with second, third, probably fourth stringers, which is no representation of how this season went. And who knows what would happen when we put those guys out there. But so in that component, and not only that, but then you get another month of reps from younger guys. You get the team together for a little bit longer. But then on the other hand, you got just screwed by the ACC and ESPN and what ACC did on social media and the ACC network playing the Miami Notre Dame game, and then obviously keep being left out of the playoff committee after being in the playoffs for the entire season. Maybe wanting to stick it to ESPN a little bit, maybe not wanting to waste time. And I don't know. You see reports like it was the team's decisions. If it was the team's decision because you know what, they're like, we're going to be playing with third and fourth stringers. We've been with this team since March, every day, 7 days a week, 24 hours thinking about football, and I want to go home and spend Christmas with my family because we're not in the playoff. I think that's a little bit different than, playing the whole politics side of it and trying to stick it to ESPN and not putting money in their pockets. So I see it both ways. I would have liked to have played, to be honest with you, because I like watching Notre Dame football. I want to see young guys that I didn't watch all year go out there and compete. But on the other hand, I don't want to say it's a waste of time, but at some point we're going to have to look at these bowl games and have a really hard conversation of like, are they really worth it? Out of the playoff, they've got their games. All these other games, you're either not going to play in them or you're going to be playing with third stringers because you got guys going to the portal and this and that. And at that point, it's just kind of like a glorified scrimmage. The meaning behind winning a bowl game, maybe not for some of the smaller schools, but at some point we got to look at it. And if we're having all these teams that are opt out, it's kind of a waste of time and money and energy to think about playing in a bowl game when we can start preparing for next year.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I will forever agree with this decision. I don't. The last thing I want is to go play BYU, like you said, potentially third, fourth stringers, and that managed to be a game, or we somehow lose, and then the next thing you know, it's going to turn into, yep, the committee was right to not put them in, which is just, it's not that scenario this year. It's not Florida State from 2023. It's just completely different situations.
I agree. And honestly, I don't even think people would say that if we lost or we got killed or whatever. I don't really think people would say. But again, that also just shows how much or how meaningless these bowl games are nowadays.
Yeah.
Again, I'm torn. As a fan, I want to be able to watch my team go play, but also at the same time, it is business too. And you know what? At some point, we got to stand our ground. And if that's not playing, if that's the way we want to show it, I don't necessarily agree with that. But if it was more of the fact that we just went through a gauntlet of a year, spending every day working our tails off, and our guys just wanted to go home and spend Christmas with their families or just be a normal college student, whatever the case might be, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. And I mean, it even leads to the conversation that people are having now, claiming that the conference championships, they're not worth it anymore either. Because, like I said, unless your name was Alabama, you got hurt if you lost. And it's just turning
Yeah.
to a whole situation where, for example, what happens if there was a potential for a BYU opt out of the conference game with Texas Tech? Do we start talking about them being pushed out, but they didn't play? Like, then what do we do?
Yeah. It's just tough. Honestly, Kerry, it's tough. It's a tough realization to know that your team is a top 12 team in football and you're not going to be able to show it and compete at the end of the year, having arguably one of the best running back rooms that college football has seen in a very long time with how dominant they were. Freshman quarterback in CJ Carr, who plays like he's a seventh year senior. I mean, you got guys like that, and then how much we improve defensively. It's just sad that these guys are not going to be able to go on the field and compete with the best again, specifically this team. And it's a really hard pill to swallow. Like I said, not being in the field of 12 to go compete for a national championship when you know you're not only a top 12 team and not a top 10 team, but probably a top 5, if not a top 3 team in football. It's just sad.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and I can only imagine how the players and coaches are feeling, especially how, I and our friends and family have felt over the entire situation.
Yeah, it's time to gear up for next year now. And you're seeing all over social media. Look at the cupcake schedule Notre Dame has next year. You know what? We scheduled it 4 or 5 years in advance. Some of the teams that we've scheduled obviously were relevant 4 or 5 years ago, and they're not now. Go ahead and go look at our 27 schedule or our 28 schedule or our 29 schedule and talk about hard schedules because we got them coming. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, just wait till all those teams suck too, and we hear the same exact thing.
Yeah, it'll. What do you think would happen, Kerry, if you know either we decide to leave the ACC entirely and go do a different deal and join another conference entirely? What do you think happens to the schedules, Does that hurt us or help us in transfer portal and getting players being in a conference? How do you think you, as a Notre Dame fan, you would handle where we're at in the ACC right now?
I'm tired of it at this point. I'm ready to get out of it. The thing I want to mention though is you have a billion people just saying Notre Dame should join a conference, join the ACC. We're ACC for other sports. Half our schedule was ACC this year, and that's what everyone's bitching about. So, like, what does joining the ACC really do for us? We're still going to play the same amount of teams that we do every year, and guess what? Given our luck, everyone in the ACC that we're going to play outside of a team or two is going to absolutely suck, and we're still just going to get throttled for our schedule. So there's just like, I think to an extent, our time with the ACC is just coming to an end, especially after this season.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting argument because, again, like you said, people all the time, Notre Dame join the ACC, Notre Dame join they say join a conference. It's not like we can just pick up all of our bags and move to a different conference just without any penalty, without any fines or fees or anything. And I don't know if people just don't see that. They don't care. I don't know. But they're like, join the ACC. That's fine. To your point, we played 5 ACC schools. We probably would have played 8. So add 3 more shitty teams on top of it. Instead of the teams that we didn't play in the ACC, Texas A&M. You go on the road at an Arkansas team in the SEC. Arkansas wasn't great, but it's on the road in the SEC. You want us to schedule some opponents. We're playing a top 7 team in the country in the SEC and Texas A&M. We don't have to. We're going on the road to another SEC school and playing. We don't have to. Oh, here's another one. Boise State just won their conference. We're in the playoff last year. So people talk about our scheduling and how it's such a crappy schedule year after year. Look at the teams that we play that are outside of the ACC. It's just we're apart and have a deal with a shitty conference in football.
Yeah. And same thing, USC. Everyone loved saying
And
how
USC
USC
too, yeah.
was nothing this year. Their 3 losses were Notre Dame, Oregon, and at Illinois in the early part of the season when Illinois was ranked. So I mean,
and they blew it too.
They did blow it. I mean, you can't just rag on this team for our schedule because I mean, they're basing it off of names. They're not seeing the entire schedule. You see Purdue on there, and it's like you see Purdue and Arkansas. Everyone's going to say they suck because they know what those schools did. But you look at Navy. That was a 1-loss, 2-loss team this year. I mean, like, yeah, you just can't batter the schedule entirely. USC 7-2 in the Big Ten this year. Can't really do that much better with the teams that they faced. I mean, it's just so much back and forth about Notre Dame joining a conference. Notre Dame needs to play a harder schedule. It's just like we are doing everything in the power of our hands with a schedule we made years ago. It's not in our control that Purdue just forgot how to play football. It's not in our control that USC just isn't a top 10 team every year like they used to be. Like it's just so many things that they think we can control, and it's just not possible.
Right. And honestly, if their reasoning is Notre Dame should be in a conference because everybody else is in a conference, I damn near think that's a better argument than talking about scheduling.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Because and correct me if I'm wrong, were we not talking about before the year even started how everybody's like Notre Dame's schedule is so hard. Look at the teams that they play on the road. Look at the teams that they bring into South Bend. And we both were on this podcast like, I don't think that it's that hard.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
did that happen? Didn't everybody say, wow, Notre Dame's got a pretty difficult schedule. They go on the road at Arkansas. You know, they're playing an NC State team that had some hopes this year. They're bringing in Boise State after the year that they've had and expected to do big things this year too. It's like,
yeah, I'm telling you, before the season started, everyone sees at Arkansas, and everyone was marking that game as that's going to be the one Notre Dame loses this year.
For sure, exactly. So, and then now we're sitting here at the end of the year, and everyone's like, "Look at Notre Dame's schedule." It's like, yeah, that's how it turned out. 4 months ago, you weren't saying that at all. And if we're going to talk about teams changing and evolving, well, you can't talk about how, I said the schedule's hard, but obviously we saw the teams play and their schedule turned out to not be that hard. Oh, so we're going to look at how teams perform before the season starts and then where they're at right now. Interesting, because if we did that, the playoff would probably look a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much going on that I've been so sick and tired about hearing. And I think that just furthers the overall execution of what Notre Dame did by not playing the bowl game. The amount of excuses that were being said to them, that half of them arguably blatantly just weren't correct, is just something I cannot stand either. And then you have every single one of these players, not players, coaches, maybe podcasters, sports analysis, saying how Notre Dame's being soft for not playing. I disagree. I think playing this game without 10 of our starters hurts our reputation more if we end up playing a close game. So at the end of the day, I agree with how every single way Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame has gone about this situation.
Yeah, I hear you. I honestly, it's a lose-lose situation because you go play and with your third and fourth stringers, you lose. You get talked about how, oh, look, we were right. Notre Dame's not the top 12 team in college football. Or you go play with your third and fourth stringers and you win, and you got an extra month of practice, I guess. It's like,
Yeah.
sure, that could be great, but also at the same time, those third and fourth stringers that played, half of them couldn't even be on the team in a week.
Right.
I don't know. It's like,
Yeah.
do these guys really want to go out and play? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It's definitely not an easy situation to be put in. But like I said, also when the committee for weeks said Notre Dame was in, they were in, they were in. Guarantee you the player and coach's expectations the entire time were that we were in. And it's by the time you hear that you're not, it's like, come on, bro. Like we're
Yeah.
not going to play BYU in the Pop Tart Bowl, no matter how sad the country is that we're not playing this game.
No, I hear you. I definitely see both sides of it. Again, I lean towards playing just because I want to watch Notre Dame play another game this year. But again, I understand it. At the end of the day, Notre Dame's football season's over. We had a lot of lows, to say the least. We've had a lot of highs and a lot of domination. And again, it's just sad. It's a travesty that this Notre Dame football team, again, with the running back room that they've had, the quarterback in the season that CJ Carr was putting on, then how much improvement that the defense has had was just exactly what you want to do heading into the playoff. And it's just sad that we're not going to be able to see it anymore.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest devastating aspect of everything is just no more love, potentially no more price. And I mean, so on. There's probably a list of players that we don't even know about yet because we are so caught up in the current situation that we don't even know what we're fully losing.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But Notre Dame is not going to be part of the college football playoff this year. We're obviously still going to watch college football playoff, even though I'll watch it with a little bit of salt in my mouth. That's okay. It happens. It's a part of rooting for fan bases and being a part of something bigger than yourself. And you get let down a time or two. And fortunately, that's what happened. But we're going to be here to cover out the rest of the college football season. But, Carrie, college football playoff talk, let's be done with it. Just kind of put me in a bad mood, to be honest with you. You've been talking about it, thinking about it all week. Probably will be thinking about it until next year's rankings come out. So, but, Carrie, let's throw it over to the best part of every episode, and that is the best bet. There's 2 bets out there for the people today. What are they?
I'm going to be all over the Irish, minus 11.5 at home against Idaho.
Hoops!
For all the listeners out there, we are without Marcus Burton. I'm going to throw that out there, but this is where the team steps up and finds out who the next man up is. And I think it's still this team is finding themselves right now. We have some serious 3-point shooters. If we're shooting the ball well, there's a lot of teams that are in danger out there. So I do like the spread at home against Idaho, minus 11.5.
Not only that, but Notre Dame came out with a pretty sweet new basketball logo that I'm sure will be on some quarter zips. So you got that going for it too.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm sure I'll be seeing that on this show pretty soon here.
Oh, you will be. Don't worry about that.
All right, good. But let's throw it to your pick.
My best bet for today is going to the hardwood as well in college basketball, and we're going to take the Liberty Flames on the road against NC State plus 11.5. We've talked about this Liberty team on this podcast before. NC State team that we saw cracks in Feast Week. People had high hopes with them. Will Wade coming in as a coach, bringing over a bunch of talent from McNeese and obviously what they did in the portal. High hopes. Haven't been playing the best basketball as of recent, and I love this Liberty team. Zach Cleveland is damn near averaging, I believe, almost a triple-double in college basketball, which is absurd. Caden Matheny, great guard. Brett Decker is an awesome guard, one of the top scorers in college basketball, especially in the backcourt. So I like this Liberty team. With a struggling NC State team, I think 11.5 is too much. I do think NC State wins the game. I think they win a close one by 5 with free throws at the end, but give me Liberty to cover.
I like it. Solid team. Seen them play a few times this year already.
Yeah, that will take care of the best bet for today. But that's all I got. For the first time listeners, appreciate you. All the returners, all the love. Go follow us on all of our socials. We got Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, you name it. We got it. Carrie, that's all I got. What do you got?
We got your sports.
Until next time.